My name is Stephen Prosser and I am the Associate Pastor at Hope Church Rotherham and the Europe lead for the 3D mission team. And I'm privileged today to be able to interview Mark Holdcroft. Mark is a guy with whom I journeyed on our MA in mission. And then Mark has been a decade in Slovakia before coming back to repurpose a church in Biddulph near Stoke. And it's wonderful to have you here today. And with all of that experience that you have in the mission field and then coming back to a local church, what were the missional gaps that you've identified and how have you been able to step into that space?
Well, I'll start with the mentality. We came back to a small town. It was actually the town that sent us. But we were away for 10 years and came back to this town, and just the town itself had a very small mentality in terms of people did the same thing every day, every week. I would go to the gym and see people on the same machine at the same time as 10 years ago. So nothing ever changed. People never left the town. It was very closed in that sense. And that culture came into the church, it crept into the church, so the church was quite closed. And the church historically had been quite missional. So going back years, it sent missionaries out. Obviously, we were sent out from the church, but prior to us, it sent missionaries out. It had started other churches in the area. So it had a missionary mindset previously and historically. And when we came back, there was lovely people in the church, but it had lost its missional mandate. Most of the church meetings were inward focused. Very little was towards the community, whether that be the local community in Biddulph or whether that be beyond or even international. It wasn't that they didn't care about international mission. There was still 10% of whatever came in went into a missions fund to support international missionaries, but there'd become a disconnect to the church and what went out there. What went on, what people were doing in different places. There was a disconnect with the community. And so when we came back, we saw these gaps and we wanted to change. That was one of the first things we wanted to change. So aside from dealing with the internal, that every pastor watching this will know, when you're repurposing a church, there's a lot of internal things you've got to work through. And as a missionary, that was very frustrating because my heart, my mind, and you'll know this as a missionary yourself, it's towards the out. It's towards looking out. But we had to change some things on the inside just to get us ready for that. But our heart has always been to look out. So we changed. We even cut down on some of the meetings that were going on because they were all inward focused. So we even cut down one of the meetings in order that we could start an outreach into the city. We're on the edge of Stoke-on-Trent. So we're a small town, but it's just looking in to the city where there's great need. And so we cut down on some of the meetings we were doing internally in order to refocus ourselves externally and also to try and give people the experience of mission.
So you speak a little bit of a mindset change there. Do you want to just develop that a little bit? Because that sounds like that's a really important element of what was taking place.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of meetings. There was a lot of vertical relationship with God, but there was very little in terms of going out. And so we had to start to help people to understand when people come into the church, they had to think outwardly. They had to be thinking about the people that weren't in the church to start with. And also with the international missions, although we were supporting financially, the average person in the church didn't know what was going on. They didn't know what was going on with any of the missionaries we supported. And there was very little connection with those missionaries. We'd gained a lot of different missional projects over the years, so there was a lot of money going out to little bits here, there, and everywhere, but it was disconnected, disjointed. And so we wanted to bring that together and actually bring missions into the heart of the church. We actually changed the way we spoke about things. So we will say, when we talk about our vision, we're a church that has a missional culture with missional values. We're a church that has missional locations. So our heart is to church plant, and we're calling them missional locations. We want every location to be missional on their own right. And we're a church that develops missional people. So we're developing what most people would call a Bible school, a discipleship school. But for us, we've called it a missions school because that's our heart. It's to take people off the street, introduce them to Jesus Christ, and make them missional. And whether that's local, I very much believe in the Acts 1:8, that we bid off as our Jerusalem. Our Judea for us is Stoke-on-Trent. Samaria is maybe the Muslim population that we have in Stoke-on-Trent, and the ends of the earth. So I very much believe that the church itself can do all those things. And we don't have to wait either. It says in Acts 1:8, Jerusalem and Judea. It doesn't say, and then Judea. Go and be my witnesses in Jerusalem. And then once you've done that, once you've got the whole city saved, then you can move on. No, it says and. And we very much believe as a church in the and. We're meant to focus on mission locally, but we're also meant to be focusing on mission internationally as well. So that's where our heart is. And we've tried to change that mentality within the church. So through language and also through giving people the opportunity. We do a lot of mission ourselves, but God spoke to me quite strongly that actually we're not meant to go out and do mission. My wife and I were the missionaries, but we're not meant to go out and just do mission on our own. We're meant to take people with us, inspire people, be the catalyst for others to do mission, whether that's locally, doing mission on the streets. We've got an evangelist coming who will be training our people, or whether that's internationally. It's about giving people opportunity to experience, to see mission. And also as a church, we've made it very clear that we don't measure the success of the church based on how many people come on a Sunday. As much as, like any pastor, we want to see the church grow, but we'll measure the success of the church by how many people go. And by that, I mean we're quite willing to lose people. We want to lose people to mission. We want to lose people to go out to support other churches. We want to lose people to go out onto the mission field. We see that as us being successful. We believe as we do that, we will grow, but our heart is to send people. And that's what we'll see. If in 10 years' time, we've sent a number of people, however many people there are in the church, we know we've been successful and obedient to the calling that God has given us.
So that is an enormous change that you are implementing in the church, and it's incredibly exciting. So as the people in the congregation are journeying through this, what are the benefits to them? What have you seen change in them that has made a real difference to you as a church because of this missional mindset that you have brought in?
I think people are starting to realise that they can make a difference. And that's so important. We live in a culture where social media, the news, it's bombarding us with the things that are going on in the world. And yes, we can pray, but we can't really make much of a difference apart from, prayer's powerful, don't get me wrong, prayer's extremely powerful. But actually saying to people, look, you can go and do something. So last year, for example, when we'd been through that 2-year period of COVID, and then straight after that, the war started, and people were just hearing this negativity from everywhere. And because of an opportunity that opened up, the church was able to send me to Ukraine to go do some humanitarian aid work in Ukraine. But it gave the church a sense, it wasn't just sending me, it gave the church a sense, actually, we're not going to be controlled by what's going on out there. We're going to do something about it. We're going to make a difference. And the church obviously had to dig in and pray because they were sending me somewhere that was quite dangerous in its own right. But it was something where the church realized locally, we can do something. We can make a difference. And we see that at the same time we were training our young adults to go into to do schools work, to make them more missional. We stopped the meeting as a small group so much and said, look, come on, let's go on a missional journey together. Let's train you how to do mission. And so we've seen people suddenly realize that they can do something. And we live in a world where I mentor a lot of young men, and a lot of them have been emasculated by society, or they've learned a toxic masculinity. And I'm able to give these young men purpose. And I think that's so important that and it's not just young men, it's everybody needs it, but they need purpose. And a church that has purpose is alive. And that's what I see, that, you know, a church that has purpose. And I'm not worried about numbers on a Sunday, although we have seen some growth, because I do believe that if we go, we'll grow. But it's about the sending. It's about sending people out of the church, seeing them fulfill the purpose that God has given them, seeing them grow in that purpose. And it just makes an incredible change in people's lives. And we've seen that excitement in the church grow, especially as we're talking more. We're planning more missions now. We're planning to take people with us. And we've seen a sense of excitement. And it's not just the younger people, it's the older people as well. So there's a sense that people start to realize their purpose on this earth. They can make a difference. And actually, we want to give them the opportunity to make a difference as well.
And that's absolutely wonderful. I love the heart of purpose. So by bringing in a missional dynamic and in a local and a global context, actually has brought purpose to people's lives. And that, of course, is then acted out in the area in which your church is to the benefit of the local community. So we wish you the very best. We pray God's richest blessings on your journey. And thank you so much for giving us your time and sharing such great insights today. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, thank you.